Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti. Do not adjust your monitors, do not adjust your screens in any which way, shape, form, or fashion. You are not seeing odd shapes and things. This is how we're dressed. Bill and I have just finished a video on Rocky Horror and the Little Shop of Horrors for a Halloween themed episode. We are doing another episode, totally unrelated. We are doing an album discussion on Joe Jackson. The album is, and I'll hold it up to the camera, Night and Day 2. This is Joe Jackson's sequel to his album from 1982 called Night and Day. This album came out in 2003. There you go. Thank you for the back cover shot there, Bill. The album came out in 2003 on Ryko Music. To indifferent opinion on the album. It went under the radar. It really didn't get much notice at all. I was turned on to the album recently through our new music discovery series that I was doing with Bill, and we decided to do a more in-depth discussion on the album because, quite frankly, for me, my very humble opinion, this album bloody deserves it. So, a little bit about Joe Jackson. Okay, everyone knows Joe Jackson, British artist, released his first album, Look Sharp, 1978. Has gone on to release many albums. Originally signed to A&M Records. Joe Jackson, for me as an artist, has always been one that did whatever the hell he wanted to do musically. He never stayed in one musical style, one musical genre. He basically did whatever the hell he felt like doing, and buy or be damned. If you liked what he did, great. If you didn't like what he did, move on. He really did not care. The original Night and Day basically told stories about situations in New York City, characters in New York City, with songs like Stepping Out, TV Age. This Night and Day 2 here goes into more detail in the inner city of New York. 10 tracks. It basically talks about various characters within New York City and their life and what they go through from day to day. It's pretty much, for me, a concept album. Fantastic composition, fantastic playing on the album. Each song for me is basically a mini play. Okay, but I will pass it over to Mr. Bill Schuster so he can tell us his thoughts and his experience with this album, and then I'll give you my take on the album. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Armando. Well, for those who might not have seen our previous Joe Jackson episodes, I've been a Joe fan like many since 1982 when the original Night and Day was released and had hits with Stepping Out, Breaking Us in Two, and in Australia with Real Men, which became his biggest hit there.
That's right.
Yeah, and also pretty cool because I love that song. But yeah, this I've been a fan ever since. I've been along for the ride and purchased everything as it came out. So when 2000 rolled around, I jumped right on this thing, of course. He was in the midst of his time with Sony Classical. In fact, this was his last studio album with Sony Classical.
Okay.
In the 90s, from say 93 and Night Music on up until this album, he kind of went on a tangent, as Armando alluded to, with his musically exploratory nature. And he did all kinds of cool, weird stuff that would never touch the pop charts, but was some of his best work, I think.
Yeah.
And remains some of his best work, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no exception. I got to say, as much as I do think the original Night and Day holds up and is still a masterpiece on its own, for the longest time, I've pretty well thought that I like this one even better. And that does seem to be an unusual opinion amongst Joe Jackson fans, especially the more casual ones. Maybe not amongst the hardcore fans, but even then, I think it probably is. I think he's much more mature here. Uh,
Yeah.
he's much more experienced. Obviously, he's got almost 2 decades further experience as a musician, as a songwriter, a composer, an arranger, band leader, uh, and it shows.
I would
This
agree.
this album thematically, it's very consistent. He uses a lot of drum programming, which that may sound like a bad thing, but not necessarily. It works for this album. Gary Burke plays drums on Love Got Lost, and that's
Yeah.
it. The rest is all programmed drums, programmed by Joe himself. So he obviously has a strong controlling hand on the final product here, the overall sound.
Yes.
Everyone else just throws their seasonings into his mix, basically.
Hmm.
Some of them stronger seasonings than others, but all of them work well toward the whole stew here.
Yeah.
And yeah, as Armando said, this as Night and Day, the original was like a tribute to Cole Porter and to New York, and with songs about characters in New York. This is also, it didn't intend to be a sequel originally, the way I understand it, but as he went along, he realized these songs were in that mold and it became a sequel. And these are all songs about odd New York characters, basically.
Yeah.
And each one is basically the chapter of a novel or a short story. Basically, it's a collection of short stories. I think that's more apt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a musical novella.
yeah, yes, and he does. Joe has never been shy about. Even though I just mentioned how he was controlling of everything. Uh, Conversely, he also is able to put his ego aside and let other people take the lead, like have lead
Hmm.
vocals. And there are multiple cases here. You have Marianne Faithful, uh, Suzanne Dayham. I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation still, but it's, yeah, Deyhim. This is not her. She's previously been on Night Music.
Yeah, she sings. If I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken, she does lead vocals on "Why." Is
Yes,
is it "Why"? Okay, yeah,
yes, it is. You are correct. Um, Returning from the original album, you have Graham Maybe on bass, of course, who is essentially, he's played on more Joe Jackson albums than anybody but Joe himself. He's really Joe's longtime friend, right hand
yeah,
man, little stereotype. He hasn't been on everything, but he's been on a lot, and
yeah,
he's a
yeah.
damn fine musician. Um, but even here, he only plays on 3 tracks because this album has a particular sound. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we also have Sue Hajopoulos on multiple sorts of percussion, who was also a huge part of the original album. And her percussion is very important here. There's these Latin rhythms that kind of are going throughout the entire album, even in places where they seem kind of odd and out of place on more softer balladic type material. You'll hear little bits of percussion. And I'm looking at myself in this makeup and my granny glasses, and I seem like I'm very pained. Like, why don't you write your mother? I don't. Sorry, folks. That's a sidetrack. I just saw myself on screen.
I know, I know, I know, I know what you mean. I look at myself on screen right now. It's like, oh God. I'm like, okay, oh, I got you.
um, but yeah, he's yeah, and Sue it actually plays on 4 tracks out of the 10. So Joe himself is really the only constant player who's on every track.
Yeah.
Other than that, as I said, people add seasoning as needed in here.
Mhm.
Uh, the one potential guest vocal, which makes this particular outfit here very apropos, is
Apropos, yeah.
Dale DeVere on Glamour and Pain. Dale DeVere supposedly is a drag queen from New York. There's much speculation that Dale DeVere is actually Joe Jackson in drag. I have not been able to verify whether that's true or not. I wish I knew. So if anybody has a definitive answer, or if Joe himself wants to admit it, come on, Joe, help us out.
Mhm.
Uh, that would be awesome. But either way, I'll let you be the judge. Here's the picture in the
Yes.
booklet. Try to
Yes.
picture Joe in drag. I see Joe's facial features.
I
I
kind of
think
do
it
as
is,
well. I kind of do as well. But you
but
don't, yeah, we
we
don't,
don't know.
you don't know for sure. Exactly. Exactly.
So
Um,
that may or may not be a guest vocal, but if it is Joe, it's done in a slightly different voice than his normal.
yeah, it's done in a higher register. Hmm.
Yeah, which he does elsewhere throughout his career. So it's not that unusual for him, really. Um, yeah, I don't know what else. I'll have more to say, but I'm curious where. What do you have going through your head here, Armando?
I think that this album for me is quite frankly one of his best albums that he's ever done. I think that it's a short album. It's only 40 minutes plus. It's got 10 tracks, but this could have been a double album because to me, each song is like a mini novella telling this story with minus the prologue, which starts off the album, the instrumental prologue, which, by the way, is sort of used as a as to keep each track together. It segues from track to track using the prologue little section in between each track, um, which gives it a continual play. I think that this could have been a double album with more stories written. I think that musically it is fantastic. Lyrically, it is heart wrenching at times. Uh, Composition wise, it is some of his best work, if not his best work, because it's literally telling the story of these nine characters. Whether it's the song "Stranger Than You" or "Why" or "Love Got Lost" or "Glamour and Pain." I think "Glamour and Pain" is my favorite track on the album. I think we talked about before, and I think the reason why is it's just very melodic, very catchy, very beautifully written, and I think it's very daring to tell the story, to tell a story, and to use a drag queen who is basically has to keep his relationship with someone on the DL on the down low, for not for being afraid of of outing his partner, right? Because this partner saying basically, I want to be with you, but we can't do it. Like we have to keep it on the DL because I have a life and kids, right? And the story of it is that it's being looked at from the point of view of the drag queen, Dale DeVere, right? Where he's sort of watching his boyfriend living his life, his straight life, right, from the outside, and wondering like, why am I not included in what you're doing? Why can't we walk hand in hand or arm in arm down the street? Because you're living your life on the DL. You're keeping me on the side. You're keeping me in the closet, and they're getting frustrated with that. So I think it's a sad story on that level. I think it's a powerful track. I think it's very impactful. Even other tracks like Dear Mom, where he's basically writing to his mom saying that I know you want me, I found I found, my sister, the one they want me to go look for. She's telling you to go to hell. She doesn't want anything to do with you. And by the way, now that I've found her, and now that I've been here for a while, I think I'm going to stay in New York myself and find out what this is all about. So not only has the mother lost one child, she's basically lost two, right? In doing so. And again, I just think it's the stories are told very well, very very beautifully, very just very poetically, and in the respect of how they're all sequenced. There's not one track I would skip on this album. The one track that is really sad is Happy Land, the one track where he's talking about where um, these people were killed in a nightclub fire, due to an arsonist that picked one night, a hot, steamy summer night, where, all these people were in this club having a good time. They set, and they purposely set this fire, and these people perished. I think I think it's a sad track. I think it's beautiful. The other track of note for me is Love Got Lost with Marianne Faithfull on lead vocals, where basically this is a woman looking back on her life and looking at all the experiences she's had in her life and some experiences that got away from her. All these opportunities that were offered to her, and she basically passed them up. This is my interpretation, ladies and gentlemen. I could be wrong. This is what I'm hearing when I hear this track. It's almost like this woman is almost like a Greta Garbo kind of a character, where it's like, I want to be alone. I don't want to be around anyone, that kind of thing. But in the end, and I realize how ridiculous my accent sounds, but in the end, she realizes that she's passed up too many opportunities, and she is looking back on her life in a more melancholy kind of a way, right? And with melancholy eyes, you know what I mean? I think that I think overall this album is a fantastic snapshot of where Joe Jackson was in 2003, and he wanted to put it on record, and I am so grateful that he did, because I listened to this album and I'm almost moved to tears, because it is sonically so beautiful. Composition wise, it is a masterstroke, and I just wish that it did better for him, and that he was more appreciated as an artist. I mean, he is appreciated as an artist. I don't want people to start putting comments in the comment section, oh, he is appreciated. You've been living under a rock. No, don't do that. I'm just saying that as an artist, I think that that Joe Jackson is kind of, to an extent, overlooked, right? And I think that this album is was overlooked, and I think that it's a travesty and disgusting that it was. I think people should give it more of a chance and listen to it more. And I think that if he had done it more of a double album concept, it would have been fantastic. It would have been beautiful. And that's my take.
All right. Nice. It's um let's see, Glamour and Pain. You talked about, yeah, your interpretation of that, and yeah, I tend to agree. There's a very it gets even darker when you go further in the lyrics with the fantasy of the narrator. Let's see.
Darker than the way we're dressed.
Okay. Yeah,
I
like
mean,
like to smash right through and help myself to your silverware to cut your throat and run, and maybe I just laugh at your expression. Hooray for super whore. I see it all. See me fly, feel my pain, hear me cry, know my name, glamour and pain. That's
That's nobody knows my name.
yeah, this frustration that's coming out. The yeah, in these violent dreams, these
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
daydream. Uh,
The frustration of living in the shadows, of living under the radar and nobody noticing who this person is. It's just there's so many levels to this album and these songs that it's unreal. It really is. Um, I just think that musically it is his, if not his best work, one of his best works.
it's one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not one of his best sellers, but it's one of my favorites. It's I thought when you were talking about Dear Mom and the sister who disappears
Yeah.
to the city to get away from mom, and the brother that goes looking for her and then decides to stay and leave mom behind, stay with sister. I thought that kind of went along with what we were talking about in our previous episode with Rocky Horror
Yeah.
Picture Show and Little Shop of Horrors, with the innocent characters who are exposed to a different side of life, and yeah, they embrace those possibilities and leave their old lives behind, and they're not so innocent anymore. Yeah,
Yes.
I think those characters fit right there with Brad and Janet and Seymour and Audrey.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it also talks, it touches on the theme of um not what's right or wrong, but what is different, a different reality, a different option to what you already know and what you already live. You know,
yeah,
um, I just think that this is a fantastic snapshot of where he was in 2002, 2003. Um, and it's like I said before in the previous discussion, it's almost like this whole album can be set in one apartment building in New York, like a brownstone in New York kind of thing, right? Where the camera comes in close, goes in for a close up through each window, through each floor of the 9 floors of the building, right? Where you go in, it tells one story, pulls out, goes lower, goes into another window, tells another story. You know what I mean? And it does that throughout the entire album. It's all connected, just on different levels.
you could take the cover of Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti with the moving interior window shots and just put these
Very much,
characters in there instead. Yeah,
very much so. Very much so. I would agree with you with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Um,
good observation. That's yeah, they would fit all together.
and
The
even like what is your take on Marianne Faithfull's performance on this album?
Oh, I think she's great. I'm glad that Joe got her because she has that a voice that I don't think he would have been able to pull off himself. She has that voice of age and experience, and she's seen things and done things that not everyone is going to understand, and not all of it's pretty.
In this episode?
I was told my granddaughter thought I was made beautiful here, so I'm just
I know.
saying,
I was,
okay.
yeah, and I had people run away from me, so we had both the desired effect, I guess. Uh, but no, I get what you're saying. I mean, Marianne Faithfull has a sort of she approaches it more of like a chanteuse kind of performance, like, oh, the life I've lived and the things I've seen, it's just like that kind of feeling to it. You know what I mean? And the fact that she recorded these vocals in Dublin and they were sent to him. He recorded the rest of the album in New York, right? He reached out to her in Dublin, and she did it for him and sent the tapes back, and you know, he pieced it together, kind of a thing, right? So I mean,
It was
just
almost literally a phoned in vocal, and yet it does not sound like a phoned in vocal. It sounds very authentic. The
no,
touch me, don't touch me. It's like she doesn't even know what she wants or where she's at herself at this point.
yeah, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, each track, each vocal performance on these tracks is beautiful, masterful, emotional. Uh, you know, it starts off with somebody walking down with the track "A Hell of a Town," where he's, the person's walking down the street, taking in the sights and the view and whatever, like around him in New York, and just drinking it all in visually, and very confident, right? And just slowly, as you go throughout the album, the the point of view changes to someone who has experienced it all, lived it all, and basically has come out the other side. Whether or not it's for good or worse, for better or worse, you don't know. I tend to think it's for worse, but because you as we all go through our lives. I mean, we've lived our lives, we live our experiences, and we come out the other end changed. You don't get out of this life without being changed. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it takes you on a musical journey, this album. And I think that for better or worse, you're affected by it. You know.
I think you look at the lyrics of "Stay," the last song, the very last words on the album
Mm.
will tell you what the decision was. So the very last lyric is, "I think I'll stay." So
So even with everything that the person's been through, they've chosen to stay in New York and make the best out of their life and what they've done. So
now in real life, Joe did not. He moved to Berlin.
okay, but I
That's a
mean,
whole separate story. But yeah,
yeah, that's a whole separate story. But I mean, I think it shows the spirit of a person's spirit, and the fact that they choose to endear and move on, like the endurance that they've had with their experiences, and they've decided to still stay where they are and still live their life. That shows a lot of strength. And I think the another theme of this album is possibility. Like what is around the next corner, right? Are we going to be successful, or are we going to fail? You never know until you go around that corner, right? And you face whatever is in front of you, and you deal with it head on, and you don't shy away from it. It's called the human spirit, right?
he
And
writes about that a lot.
yeah, and let's bear in mind, if you look at the cover, you can show the cover better than I could, the front cover. um Thanks, Bill. If you look in the rearview mirror, you see you see the towers. The two towers in the cover on the cover, and then you look in the mirror, in the rearview mirror, and they're gone. So I mean, that alone is shocking, and that makes you think, like how endurable is the human spirit? How much can somebody take in life and move on and still keep going? Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of themes running through this album, either visually or sonically, right? So But, do you have anything else to add? Or
I do want to mention the 25th anniversary special. It's not the whole concert from this tour. It's about an hour's worth. It does have 5 songs from Night and Day 2, uh, and features, besides Joe, Graham Mabey and Sue Hajopoulos were both also part of the touring band.
Mhm.
But one interesting change was Allison Cornell, violinist, keyboard player, and vocalist, did the vocal on Glamour and Pain, which Joe joked about during the show as something like a reverse mind fuck about I don't remember the exact quote, but basically he was saying we have our own drag king to take the place of drag queen Dale DeVere. So, which
Okay.
was interesting. I don't know if that was Joe's way to get out of admitting that he was Dale DeVere by having Allison sing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but Allison did a great job, Phil. So anybody who likes this album, I would recommend getting this DVD. It obviously it has other songs as well, including a number from the original Night and Day, and a
Okay.
handful of others tossed in, but it's quite good.
And what I like about this album too, I forgot to mention this, is that throughout the musical pieces, he does do some piano parts from, say, Stepping Out. Like he does some
Yes,
chords on the keyboards and some chord progressions on the piano from Stepping Out, from Night and Day, the original. So it's like a throwback that he's telling you musically that this is that these albums are connected, right?
with a little musical wink there.
Exactly, like an acknowledgement of the past to go back to keep going on into the future. You know what I mean? It's almost like saying you can't go forward until you've looked back and see where you've been, right? So that's how I take it. I that's what I'm saying. I think this is one of his, if not his best album that he's released. So
And he does go. He does look back, and I think one of the great things about it is that he doesn't just make a clone of Night and Day. That he takes that concept and brings it somewhere else up to date musically.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you kind of also get the feeling that none of these songs are just like spur of the moment, off the top of your head ideas that he just wanted to put down on tape. These songs are fully formed and flushed out, proper and crafted and honed and brilliantly put together, and just here you go and enjoy, you know. And I'm listening to this album in the car. And by the way, this is Bob's favorite album as well. He was listening to this album and he was just like, when did this come out? I said, well, 2003. He's like, how come I never heard of this? I said, very few people did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I didn't hear about this until a few months ago. He looked at me, you didn't know about this? I'm like, no. No. And I'm just looking at myself now. I'm like, I'm scaring the shit out of myself right now. With the way I look. Voldemort, you know what I mean?
I'm a
But
little verklempt. I don't know.
exactly. Yeah. But it's true. It's this album is quite simply fantastic. And I urge everyone out there, if you don't have it, you can either listen to it online on YouTube. You can get it for a good price. Like I got my copy for $12 from Amazon, from a secondary seller. Go on Discogs, go on eBay, find this album, buy both of them, Night and Day 2, listen to them back to back,
Yeah.
please. And
There's your double album.
there you go. There you go. But do you have any other notes, any other comments, or
I don't think so. I'll echo the recommendation. Absolutely. Yeah, buy this thing. Give it the love it deserves. It has not received enough of over the last couple of decades.
I would agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. That part two of two. And please check out the previous episode that we just taped. It's hilarious. So please put your comments down below. Let us know what you think of Night and Day 2. Do you like Joe Jackson? Do you not like Joe Jackson? Do you think that Joe Jackson has had it? And by the way, he's got a new album coming out in November. I forget the release date. I do believe it's November 24th. He has a brand new album coming out. It's another concept album of sorts. I've already pre-ordered my copy, and I believe Bill will be pre-ordering his copy soon. Please check that out on Amazon. Also, again, put your comments down below. Do you know of this album, Night and Day 2? Do you not know of this album? Would you like to know more of this album? So please check it out. Let us know what you think of the album in the comments. And thank you for joining us. I want to thank Bill for getting dressed up for both these two episodes that we just did. It was fun. I'm about to go get myself out of this makeup because I'm starting to itch. Okay. Very badly.
I just want you to know I'm really Dale DeVere. I'm actually Joe Jackson.
There you go. There you go. I was wondering when you were going to do that. I was like, I prefer you without the wig. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, yes, he's not a crook. Cool, cool. So again, ladies and gentlemen, please join us again. Coming up on the channel, after I get the makeup off, I'm going to be doing an episode with Ryan Gavalier. We're going to be ranking our favorite John Lennon albums. We're going to do a discography ranking on Friday. And I'm going to be doing an episode with Peter Kent on Saturday on our top 10 deep tracks from Queen, or deep cuts from Queen, sorry. Bill might be joining us on that episode, yet to be discussed and finalized, but hopefully it'll be a three-way episode. I think it's going to be fun. And lots of other videos coming up, and other ideas I've got formulating in my head. Bill and I are going to be doing a discussion on Dark Side of the Moon Redux, or Redo, however way you want to talk about that or pronounce that word. I'm going to be doing a live album spotlight on David Bowie, Welcome to the Blackout, live in London, 78. Fantastic album, double album. A lot of other shows coming up, so please stay tuned for that. So for Mr. Bill Schuster, I'm Armando Venditti. We will be seeing you very soon with another video. Bye for now.
Y'all come back now here.